Oh, wow. Interesting. This is weird. Ew. Okay. Good morning. What's up, Nighthawk? Reading IBD this morning. Looking at the overnight futures market, we had a little bit of an H pattern that we bounced out of so far. Um, so we'll see. We'll kind of see how that plays out on the open. Maybe. Yeah, maybe a dead cat kind of day. What the heck's going on with my chart here? There we go. Okay. Yeah, maybe. So we're still at that lower term trend line. So far, it's been supportive here. We'll see if we're going to get another one of those bounces that we saw. We saw two of them so far at the same trend line. One here, one here. See if we get a third here, and see how that goes. One of the main differences that between these 2 points is that this closed pretty low in the bar. This one closed up more. This one closed up further, it appears, from a percentage basis within this bar's range. And another one is that we already have a retest here, which is not necessarily healthy. You see here we went up higher 2 days. Here we kind of maintain a low level for 3 days. Here we're down at the same low, which here we never tested immediately. Here we never tested immediately. So that's that's not a bullish sign. A couple of things pointing to a little more weakness and a little more weakness, but we still have more muted volumes. We're not seeing the massive volume candles we were once seeing. So mixed signals, but still definitely bearish in tendency overall, I would say. But maybe we'll get a mini bounce here. We didn't really crush it after Fed yesterday. It didn't really. It looks bad. Don't get me wrong. Not like it rallied, but keep in mind we started out rallying. So if you keep that action actually sideways, we went through about 100 NASDAQ points. We could have been 100 points lower. We could have been down at 62, but they rallied it early on, just in case, it looks like. Anyway, we'll see what happens. We're right now we're in neutral land for this immediate area, closing around yesterday's close. Yeah, like I said yesterday in the live stream on the Fed news, if we close under this low right here, if we go under this low right here about 6,300, if we go under 6,300, it negates this bottoming candle on the 5-minute chart too. Look at that bottoming candle, it's a big bottoming candle. It'll negate that, and then that will definitely lead us probably much lower. But so far that candle holding us up. But some of the leading stocks, however, not holding up that well. Here's the transports. The transports can lead the indexes generally. And you can see here we've definitely already made a new low and an aggressive one. If you look at the Russell 2000, that's already well into new low territory. The Russell 2000, as a matter of fact, almost at a measured move. So the Russell 2000 tracks the 2,000 small companies. Hold on a second. And the Russell 2000 well into new low territory after a break of this bear flag formation. Small caps taking it on the chin, so this is a risk-off environment for institutional investors. And with the transports rolling over, looks like it's a fundamentally off event as well. So measure move on Russell would be here. If you want to make a more aggressive measure move, you could do it there from the breakdown point, which would take us much lower. This takes us down another almost 12% from here on the Russell. If you take that earlier measured move, it was about 4% lower. So depending on how you want to handle the Russell 2000 at this stage of the game. Let's actually build this up a little bit. Looks like there's a longer term trend at play here that line may actually hit. That line hits that line right there exactly. If you do, whoops. If you do the line respecting that, the heck just happened? If you draw this line respecting this low right here instead of this low, then you end up with this line, which is about where we are. So maybe that is the correct line, and maybe that is the correct trend line. Apple has a very similar trend line on it right here, going all the way back down to 2008 lows. I don't know if Amazon has a similar trend line or not. It's got exponential parabolic move type of trend lines. Facebook hit with some bad news. I'm not sure if it was late yesterday or what, but they're getting sued by the federal government over their Cambridge Analytica stuff. They've broken all trend lines here except for this one. That could be the target for Facebook for going lower. So look at the Dow Jones. Dow Jones has been in a big uptrend since 2008. That could be the trend line for the Dow Jones. Potential going in that direction. And I think we have similar lines in NQ. So here's a trend line. Looks like it's barely touching. Let me redraw that. Let me respect that low right there. Let's do that trend line on the NASDAQ. Hits a few more points. And then almost hits that as well. So not sure if that's in the cards for the NASDAQ. I hope not. But the NASDAQ does retrace and expand further. So that could be possible. If you remember, we went over the indexes. I think it was last week sometime, and NASDAQ led by about double the other indexes. All right, let's go to our pre-market mover screen. See what's working. See what's not. See what's popping. See what's hot. I made up a rhyme. All right, AGEN leading the list up 50%. And we don't care. CNSL. Also don't care. YRIV. Yangtze River Port. Apparently Yangtze River's not doing too hot because it just dropped lower there. XON. No. We're looking at that for a minute. Never hit. I still have an alert level up there. It's never been touched. All right. Blockchain up 13%. Bitcoin had a good night overnight. AIMT. Nope. Nope. Tilroy's next. Up 11% on some news with Budweiser. JNUG up 10%. Junior Nugget. This is gold 3 times. I don't remember if this is short or long. I think it's long. MLHR. Herman Miller. If you want really expensive chairs, go to Herman Miller. FGEN. Really great chairs too. PTE. Nugget. Also popping. Gold's doing something today. Looks like everybody's getting ready for that bear market. So let's go to FinViz and see what gold is up to. Softs, metals, gold. 1263. Okay, looks like in gold. We talked about 1200 in gold a long time ago on this break. Looks like that worked out. Now we're back up. Let's go to gold on our chart and see what we can see. Well, on Finviz, I can tell it's rising at lower volume. Not sure if I'm super enthused about that. Hold on again, please. Sorry, guys, getting hit by some allergies. So here's gold on the weekly chart. There's the trend we look to break. We had a member in my Crypto Power Hour that was looking at gold, and right here sold off and he left. I'm not sure why. Came for a gold trade, I guess. Get some advice on a gold trade, and my advice was prudent. Just gold wasn't going to bounce off this trend line, apparently. Talked about gold. There's 11.2. Let me hit 11.2. Looks like we're going back up. Slightly lower volume. Looks like selling off a little bit. No buy signal in gold yet for sure. Nasdaq trying to hold on. We'll see. We'll see what happens with this. Maybe they're just pumping it lower to buy it at the open. I don't know. Tricky market here, but so the market yesterday was interesting because the Fed. Let me see here. Let me make sure I get this right. I believe the Fed is raising interest rates currently, but they're lowering the amount of times they're going to raise interest rates in 2019. So I don't see that as a bad report. At all. So we'll see what happens here. We definitely could have a little rally here, but like we said yesterday, okay, Fed now sees just 2 rate hikes in 2019. I think before there was 3 or 4. Let me see here. All right, so they see, and we got what? A few minutes to the open. Got about 10 minutes. So not 10 minutes. So here's what it looked like in September. They were going to raise. 2018 flat. They see the economy up 3.5, 3.75, 4.25, then 3.5 in the longer run. They've revamped it down significantly. In 2019, they see it at 2.25 and only 2 rate hikes. Here they see 4 rate hikes. I believe that's what these dots stand for. Excuse me if I'm wrong about this. It expects the benchmark rate near 2.9% by the end of the year. It previously projected the rate to be about 3.1. So now expects just 2 rate hikes, 1 less than it previously forecasted in September. So they were doing 3, now they're doing 2, based on this economic forecast. So I think what this says that if we're in, and this doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it looks like they revised lower. So if we're under 3, they're under 2.5, they're going to do 1 or 2 rate hikes. If we're in the 2.75 to 3. So, Fed is done supporting stock price, so cash is not so bad as an investment now. Says David Tepper. Dow says to drop 100 points in the open as market attempts to rebound from Fed day rout. Pay off your mortgage ASAP, experts say. Here's why. Well, let me talk about adjustable rate mortgages. I have a mortgage. Yeah, it's just clickbait. And I clicked it. So I took the bait. Putin warns that the threat of nuclear war should not be underestimated. Sounds good. All right. So we're going to nuclear war right after you pay off your house. That's what that's telling me. That's what that's telling me right there. All right, so market's going to open in about a minute. We're sitting here with a little mini bear flag right there, so we'll see what happens. Some good news and some MJ names this morning. We'll see how that works out for us. Let's go to Tilray, gapping up here from 72 to 80. And then let's see what Cron's doing. Cron's up a little bit, not a whole lot. And see if MJ's doing anything. MJ's floating up a little bit. Yesterday actually made new lows, did MJ. So that's a little intriguing in the marijuana sector. Really not acting like accumulation down here. No one's buying these lows. It's just going lower, 25. Maybe we'll see $7 over here. Who knows? Get back to NQ on the 5-minute. I know we all like to live on the 5-minute chart. I don't actually like to, but it ends up like I do that more and more these days as we're looking for things to potentially turn around. And we've seen some good, interesting things in the 5-minute chart, so I'm not too mad about it. Looks like selling off this morning, 0.43% to the downside. We were at 0.2 earlier. 63 and a quarter. Under 63, I think very dangerous at this stage of the game. That nice little bottoming candle yesterday. That's some good buying right there. So if that can continue, see we bottomed once here, slightly undercut it, and came back. And it looks like now we're going back to that break-even point from at least where we were when I jumped on it, about 0.2% lower. Green stocks on my list. Tilray up 10%. Still not making huge bounds on the daily chart here. Sorry, guys. All right, so Tilray, TWOU, whatever you're doing. Carvana bouncing a little bit. Micron bouncing. It was beat up yesterday. BITA, been talking about BITA down here during this support area down here longer term. But, again, market's kind of in a rout right now. So, this also is a China stock, which is also not doing great. Hold on a minute. All right. Volume here so far this morning. Already meeting yesterday's open, and yesterday had pretty low volume, so I guess it kind of makes sense. We're only 2.5 minutes into this 5-minute candle, so expect a much higher candle this morning. And without selling off, that's good. There's some accumulation here. Also some distribution. So we'll see how that plays out throughout the rest of the day. 0.13% to the top of my screen here. And we briefly touched positive territory, or I should say neutral territory. I'm not going to call 0.01 positive. Get me 0.2%. I'll call that positive. Headed towards that direction at this moment in time. See the volume still getting bigger. You got about 1.5 minutes now to that 5-minute close. Nice volume there. Let's hopefully that can continue. Have a nice little rally today. 0.3% now at the bottom of my almost 0.4%. So getting a little healthier. We got Netties back up here. AMRN about 1%. Let's scroll down my list here. We got BITA, which has dropped off. Lilly flat, VMW basically flat. Amen. Okay, we got a bunch on here. Twitter, Goose, INSG, all down here about 1 and change. And our loser today, only at 2.67%, so that's not too bad. That is not too bad. Looks like, yeah, rallying a little bit. Look at that 5-minute volume. We're going to close here. Yeah, still got 45 seconds left in a 5-minute candle. So far, that's pretty good volume. That bottoming signal yesterday, so far, working out. I think some people think when I say bottoming signal, like the ultimate bottom. Like, no. When you see bottoming signals on a 5-minute candle, you can't infer 6,300 to 10,000 in the NASDAQ on a 5-minute candle. But you can infer maybe we're done going lower for this particular leg, and that could be a reversal signal. So there's a possibility that's still reversal. Haven't hit 6,300 during regular hours. The overnight session, a little worrisome, but you got to give it that. But going above the 63.90, I think, is probably much more healthy. We could still turn around at any moment in time. Breaking 63.90 would be a nice little resistance point to get through. There's obviously a bunch of resistance there. You can see even in normal market hours yesterday, there was a little bit of topping there just under that 6,400 level. So stuck in this 100-point range in the NASDAQ right now. So there you go, 63.90, 63.95 it looks like according to this action over here. So just call it 6,400. If we get past 6,400, then that could lead to further upside potential. But until then, we're still stuck in the 64, 63 range. So tis what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Twitter down 2.76% this morning. Let's go check out Twitter. Another move to the downside. Not super healthy. Luckily, volume on the downside appears to be a little more muted than on the upside, although there's some selling in both of these candles, so that's not necessarily super healthy. But definitely failing from that breakout point. Not really getting to inverted head and shoulders high. Looks like it's almost in danger of cutting into those lows right here. This would negate the head and shoulders pattern as my line disappears. There we go. So that would negate the head and shoulders pattern. And yeah, not be a good thing. Whoa, did we just jump up there? We just jumped up right there, like big time. That was a big jump up. I looked, we were here. I came back, we were way up here. That was a huge jump. And there's a huge drop. All right, definitely a bullfight going on over here. 63.80 printing right there. Very interesting price action. I was looking for a gap of some kind in the 1 minute. Didn't quite get it. So you can see here on the NASDAQ we had kind of a trend line there. We broke that to the downside yesterday. And then we get a high volume candle immediately here at the bottom. Again, that could lead to a reversal. But we're going to have to get over this level right there in order to get us healthy. To maybe even take on this breakdown point up there. Anyway, I saw the price just jump up and thought I'd take a peek at that, but we did make another new high right there. So that's pretty good. We'll just have to see if that maintains. So see the volume in the open here, pretty much akin to what we saw yesterday, right when the Fed started their announcement. Let's take a look at Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. Apple flat to up, Amazon similar, and Microsoft similar. Microsoft's actually down at levels where it has bounced in the past, although things seem a little different this time around. Come on, man. Slightly different. We've lived lower since 3 days down here. Before it pretty much bounced up. Look at that big gap up on this one. This one gapped up. This one gapped up. This one gapped up. This one lived around here a little bit, then had a mini gap. Now we're kind of happily living down here. So Microsoft could be giving up the goat a little bit in terms of its bullishness. It may start to slide as well. Taking a closer look at Amazon. We see a double top situation here. Failure at the 200 period moving average, definitely well beneath it at this stage of the game. Down to areas where it has bounced in the past, but so far living lower, not necessarily bouncing out of that. Not necessarily that healthy. Yesterday, Apple made new lows, and today looks like just a really a nothing bounce so far. Doesn't look like it wants to do anything. Looks very timid. Apple does not look healthy. I will say that. Apple, the weakest of the large three there by a long shot. We can go to Berkshire Hathaway, which I believe is number 4 in market cap, and they've broken a longer-term trend line here. Going back to 2015, they have another one here from 2008, which has not been broken. Right there. And Nasdaq struggling to get over that 64. Can't even get past, looks like 68.85 at this stage of the game. Two pretty good volume candles there on the 5-minute too. You know what? Let's actually let's dive in. Actually giving some back right now. Giving a lot back right now. So couldn't get past 63.80. Dropping volume. You know, I got to get back down to the 1 minute to see what's going on here. So definitely elevated volume right there. There's that previous candle, and then now we're dropping lower. Now they tried to take it higher. Now let's see what they could do lower. About 63.20 is about where we opened. Is the low from our open. Already reversed in reversal after reversal here. They're doing whatever they're doing here, but impetus looks like it's definitely to the downside. It's looking worse and worse here this morning. Yesterday I was looking at maybe a bounce out of these lows, but so far no major bounce. 6,300 I think is the ultimate go or no go point, but 6,320 is pretty close. That low yesterday was right at that 6,300 when we had that very low volume candle. But yeah, we're definitely still chopping around down here. I think the bear's probably awake more than asleep at this stage of the game. So, yeah, not super happy with the action here. So yesterday we had that sell signal as we undercut that low here, and then we had a bottoming candle, and it looks like that's going to be negated here. So Yeah, I would probably just step aside if this volume keeps up today. This is good volume so far. So let's do this. Let's get rid of aftermarket. Let's get rid of aftermarket and see if we can. No, you're supposed to get rid of aftermarket. All right, for some. Oh, I'm on futures. That's why. Okay, so here's. Okay, now we're bouncing back up. Good, good, good. Um, cool. So here is. Get my bearings. Here's the market without after hours sessions. We essentially. Actually, I'm gonna. So we're range bound here. I'm on the 1 minute. Okay, so here. Okay, so here's the open. Here's yesterday's close. On the futures, there's the bottoming candle. On the Qs, it was a different candle on the Qs, but there's your bottoming candle. Huge volume that usually indicates a bottom. Um, we had another pair of high volume candles there. So yeah, 63.20. That appears to be our range right now, where we're battling about. We just stopped there. That was the low earlier in the opening candle. That was the low right now. Was about 63.20, 63.21 I think is what that print says. 63, yeah, 63.21. Bounced off of that just now. So break a 63.20 I think gets you out. Maybe if you want to give it to 6,300, and then if we break this, that would be a change in trend. So let's zoom this out to the 5 minute, and that actually looks like a little bit of a bear flag, but a lot of volume down here without further downward price progression could potentially be bullish. Anyway, that's not for necessarily really long-term investors. That's for kind of more short-term moves, I guess, you know. A ton of volume since right there. That was the Fed announcement, and then when we bottomed right there, we had some pretty good volumes. Uh, 20-day 1 hour. Man, kids are whiny today. Well, I don't know. I think it could have been worse personally. I mean, it was bad. Don't get me wrong. The reaction was not positive. Um, but so they like everyone's looking for the Fed to just pause altogether. I guess is what they were looking for. Instead, they said that they're going to reduce one rate hike next year. So it's not all bullish news. Um, but yeah, I think it could have been worse. I think it could have been worse. Elevated on the drop, elevated at the bottom. But we still haven't had a large bullish reaction either. So, hold on, my 4-year-old screaming. Furrowed, screaming a bearish sign. Yeah, maybe. Um, yeah, see, I agree with you, bleh, but apparently the big businesses want more and more and more and more. Everybody wants a handout. That's the problem. And that's the funny thing, is that everyone complains about everybody wanting a handout, but still everybody wants a handout. Um, so it is what it is. All we can do is trade the markets. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of policy decisions. If you want to get a policy decision, you have to do it with your vote. That's our system of government. It's imperfect, but it's what we got, and it works okay. Whoops, that looks great. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, so plenty of red candles here this morning on this 5-minute chart, looking pretty ominous. Don't know if we can turn around. Not sure if we can turn around from this. I usually don't let it go down this many times. So we'll see if we create, or if it's supportive, that'll be a pretty valiant effort on the bulls' part, because they've pretty much sold off at every attempt so far to make a rally. We have a series of higher lows right now, and a series of lower highs. So let it play out. We'll see. We'll see if it 6320 holds. We'll see if 6,000 hold or 6,300 holds. Looks like that's our ultimate low right there at whatever that is, 6284. See what the green says on my screen. So 0.21%. So we're still around, and we're still 0.2%. This is about where we opened. So not much has gone bad, but we haven't had a lot of good action either. Usually you'll see a good reaction fairly quickly out of the gate. We saw a little bit of that. We saw kind of a mixed candle there, and then lower volume selling candle. So the past couple of days, I haven't really talked much about this. But we had a couple of days where we were floating higher for a bit there, and then rolled over, then rolled over, then rolled over. All these rising were on lower volume throughout the day, usually a bearish sign, and these did in fact lead to rising volume downtrends. Each of these, as a matter of fact. So we'll see if we get something like this today, but we've had quite a lot of volume this morning compared to recent histories. You can see there's the opens. Here's our open today. Today's going to be a huge volume day in one direction or another. The question is, what's the direction going to be by the end of the day? And that we don't know. So here's yesterday's, and even this candle is already over yesterday's opening candle's highs. So that's pretty interesting action right there. And we touched 6320 right there. Yeah, Bitcoin having a big reaction on the overnight session. A big reaction. I actually wasn't involved in any of that. Looks like it's still going too. Looks like a bull flag. Better volume in Bitcoin than we had a little bit ago. So this trend still could continue. Bitcoin Cash on fire. Bitcoin Cash out of our curl down here, and we had a flat entry point, about 66%. Bitcoin Cash SV up 15%, still holding up good. So I got a lot of work to do in crypto today. Got a lot to do in crypto. Yeah, I was never a fan of correlation. They don't. I don't know. Everybody looks for correlations, and there's just not really any correlation. They're not correlated. What's the commonality between the two? The fact they're sold into dollars. That's about it. Other than that, there's no correlation between stocks and crypto. None of them are, crypto's not based on the U.S. economy. Crypto has no fundamentals. Crypto trades worldwide. The stock market is U.S. only. I mean, there's nothing linking them. You could argue gold and silver are slightly correlated. I mean, it's got years going back. They're both precious metals. They both have value in terms of psychological and jewelry value. So there's a little bit of parallels there, but there's really no parallels between crypto and the stock market. They just look at the charts and think, oh, there's a correlation. It's like, no, there's not. There's no correlation. They move separately. So, bullish case or bearish case right now hasn't been negated so far. In fact, the only thing that's bullish, I will say this. I don't think I've said it this way. The only thing that's bullish is this candle. That's it. That's the only thing that's bullish. Sometimes it's enough for a reversal, a high volume bottom candle. Sometimes that's enough for a reversal, and that's what I'm basically hanging my hat on right now. I'm not saying that the market isn't going to go down further over time. I'm saying we may bounce out of this area based on this one candle. So do with that what you will. I don't think I've put it in that way so far. But that one bottoming candle is pretty much all my bounce analysis is predicated on. And I've seen those signals work and work pretty well. So that's a pretty high volume candle. And we'll see what happens. We'll see which range we break first. We know we're at 63 to 64 is essentially our range. And whichever one breaks first, that's where we're going to go. And then we'll see where if we go up, we'll see where that stalls. If we go down, we'll see where that stalls. And that's about it. All right, let's get back to some stocks. I'm watching that's going to make my head hurt. So up 0.55 to the bottom of my list, which is much better than what it was before. Tilray still up 9.68%. I was actually in GameStop yesterday, and here, which makes Turtle Beach headphones, they were on the shelf at GameStop. So I asked the person, like, hey, how are those Turtle Beach headphones selling? He goes, not very good. So I'm not sure if we're going to get a run back in Turtle Beach. We'll have to wait and see what they're going to get there. If how holiday sales are. Otherwise, these guys will be back down in the single-digit range probably. But they do have a presence in the gaming market, so maybe they'll maintain some level. But this could be in danger for much further downside action. As a matter of fact, you're not seeing a ton of support. Not that you aren't in any stocks right now anyways, but you're just not seeing a ton of support. So thought I'd mention that. Cron 1.8% up today. Still holding up after that news that they got large, basically taken over by a cigarette company. They're eventually going to buy Cron and fold it into their mix. They almost guarantee that. They're just going to gobble things up and keep the Altria brand alive. Pretty much what's going to happen there. Foot Locker here, Huya. Nothing like super interesting. Facebook obviously being sued by the federal government. That could be something interesting to look at. So they cracked yesterday on this declining or rising trend line, and so far rallying a little bit today. Volume not nearly as healthy as yesterday. They'll probably sell it off again. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, what's the federal government going to do to Facebook? Nothing. It's a company. We don't do anything to companies. How much cash does Facebook have? About $20 billion in cash. So 27 times 3 billion. What's 27 times 3? About 60 billion? 52 billion or so? 81 billion. My math is way off. So they have 81 billion in cash. What are they going to do? Make them pay 4 billion in fines? Who cares? They don't care. So if Facebook is found guilty and this thing drops, that would be a buying opportunity. But that's going to be months and months from now. Months and months and months from now. 0.6% now, getting a little bit healthier. Looks like we've hit the highs of the day, and you saw a little bit of selling right there as we saw that ticker go red. That indicates a a sell. See if we can get over that high. That would put us over that, get us pretty close to 6,400. We're at 6,374 right now. So we'll see what happens there. 0.6%. So doing a little better. Doing a little better. Still not out of the woods. Twitter down 5.5% today. Wow, taking that trend line out, ladies and gentlemen. See ya. So much for Twitter. That's not good. Goose. Looking at them at the 200, nothing doing. Going to go back here and test the lows, about 46, it looks like. And happily doing that. Tesla down about 2% today. All right, looks like it's finally undercutting. Actually, that looks like a broadening wedge. Definitely coming all the way through there. Looks like it's already bouncing its way back. So they're using this as a buying opportunity for Tesla. Looks like bouncing off of that 200 period moving average. Maybe we can draw that trend line if that bottom holds today. We'll have to wait and see. But it looks like they're selling off some of the stocks that were working the best a little bit ago. Twitter was working pretty good. Tesla was working pretty good. And you see what they're doing to those names today. CDNA, which was holding up very well, looks like it broke a trend line there. Not doing very good. FIVN was pretty neutral. TTD was holding up okay. Looks like they're selling those off now. MED. So looks like the selling pressure potentially hitting even some of the ones that were holding us up, or I should say, not selling off as much, which is holding us up. So not really what you'd like to see at this stage of the market. So, definitely could be a bear market upon us if stuff like that continues. Stitch Fix being up means nothing, because look at it. It's a nothing day. It's already way down there. Like most of these. Tilroy's already kind of been beaten on the head a little bit. Who cares about that one? That looks horrible. Micron's already way down here. Who cares if that's up? MG looks bad. Foot Locker holding up nicely. Living near lows, though. That could be something. NXPI looks bad. Hold on a sec. Hold on a second, guys. I'll be right back. Got to get some food for my kid. Hold on. All right, I'm back. What'd you guys do to the market? Looks like we're still holding up 0.4%. We got 0.73% now on my list, so not doing too bad. Could get that bounce. We'll have to wait and see. See, that's the thing. And I'm not saying this bounce is actually going to occur, but like, think about it. Think about it. Everybody and their mother was like, what's the Fed going to do? And then the Fed meeting happens. Everyone expected them to raise rates. They raised rates, and the market's supposed to magically sell off. Just seems a little too well telegraphed for you. You know what I'm saying? If the Fed raises rates, we're done. If the Fed raises rates, we're done. Seems a little too well telegraphed. And looks like we're about to hit 64. We'll see what happens. We broke 63.90, or we touched 63.90. Like a quarter point's gonna save us or something like that. So they sold off kind of into the news a couple of days ago. I think that was them selling off into the news. Now they're gonna rally back up, bring the buyers back in. Then we'll probably sell back off again. So we'll have a selling opportunity. If this is a buying opportunity, we'll end up with a selling opportunity. I don't know if it'll be way up here. It could be. That would, if we moved up here and failed, that would really prolong this bear market, in my opinion. And but the stock market takes a long time to work itself out. We could be in this route for quite a long time. Could be in the route for quite a long time. So elevated volumes down here. Look at the volume on the daily so far. Look at that. That's huge. We're at 284,000 out of 675, and we're half an hour into the trading day. That is a big volume day. And I don't know if it's going to reverse to the downside here. I think they were just eating up shares. Eating up shares, then boom, off to the races they go. Welcome to the stock market. That's kind of how it works. Now, if they sell off here, then they were doing probably more selling this morning than buying. Right now, it looks like it was trying to break 6,400. We'll see what happens. So the thing about crypto's pretty well telegraphed. It's pretty much all charts. If you can do charting pretty good, you can trade crypto pretty good. If we're in a bull market in the stock market and you're good with charts, you'll do pretty good. But when it comes to like news and announcements and stuff like that, they can sometimes be completely inverse of what you think, which is what kind of runs the market, is them playing games like that. Which is why when I saw that bottoming candle yesterday, I'm like, oh, maybe we'll actually bounce out of the Fed announcement instead of drop out of the Fed announcement, because we already had a little drop, then we had a huge bottoming candle, and maybe we'll go up. So we'll see. We're about to hit 64. We already went over those two recent overnight highs. 64 is taking us over this high from over here. Then we're clear up to 64.50, and then we're gonna maybe go a little higher. So we'll see what happens. What's up, Eli? Well, we watched the market play with our emotions this morning, and now we're watching it potentially trying to find a direction. It's pretty much what's happening. All right, look at the bottom of my screen here, guys. 1.16%. So that's not bad. That's actually, we're doing okay. But again, most of these names, look at SIVB. I mean, all the way down here. Not necessarily that. Most of these names up here have already taken huge hits to the downside. Still a lot of work to happen, a lot of work to do. Still thinking of buying Tesla. Yeah, Tesla's not looking too bad at these levels. We actually was looking at Tesla a little bit ago, and it looks like we failed 6,400 so far. We went above it looks like a little bit. Now we sold off. Tesla with a lot of red lines on the chart here. Let me get rid of some of these red lines. There's a lot of red lines. Get rid of that one. Bye-bye red line. Get rid of that one. Get rid of most of these. There we go. That clears it up a lot. Yeah, Tesla not looking too bad down here. So coming down towards the kind of where we started this range bound action, coming down to the low of that. I think, personally, I think that'll be a longer term bag. I don't think trading Tesla is that profitable at this stage of the game. But it would have to be a longer term bag, in my opinion. I mean, if we, yeah, I don't think it's going to go down. But okay, well, yeah, I still think Tesla longer term is going to be great. We don't know exactly where it's going to. Looks like it's taken to the downside. We don't know how far down it's going to go. Volume is pretty muted, though. I will say this: since they had their earnings announcement of 290, estimate was negative 14 cents, and they announced 290. That's funny. Ever since they've had that announcement, they've been pretty muted on volume. So I think once this route in the market is over, correction, bear market, whatever it ends up being, super deep correction, bear market, whatever you want to call it, I think Tesla could be one of the ones that actually goes up. You get 2 or 3 quarters of increasing earnings per share, and this thing's just going to rocket. So we're looking at mid next year, probably before this thing starts to go. But some people want to have their positions, and I can't blame them. And if this thing is going lower, I would probably add just a little bit every once in a while, just a little bit, not a lot. You don't have to add a bunch, but we're gonna have up days and down days, so maybe add on these moves to the downside, or if you want to wait towards the end of the day, if you see some nice closing action, that could be something to do. Yeah, they could be accumulating positions today based on the Fed FUD. Like, okay, we're not selling down so far, so I have an opportunity to sell my positions, and then they run it tomorrow. Could be, Eli. Yeah, it could be. We'll see at the end of the day. We've been looking at the $6,300 to $6,400 range. A break of either one of those may give us a direction. So 0.95% now, kind of to the bottom of my list here at the moment. So still not bad. One thing they have been doing is they have been selling off stocks that have been working recently. Twitter being sold off right now, hitting the about to hit the shoulder. As a matter of fact, that's not good. And the volume's already pretty friggin' elevated, so Twitter could be having a horrible day. Oh, they had a price target drop by someone. Oh, Citron Research out negative on Twitter. Darn it, how did I miss that? Well, there goes Twitter. Of course, we'll see if they turn positive on Twitter like they did. What was that other one that they did? They turned negative. Oh, Tesla. They turned positive on Tesla. But yeah, definitely selling begetting selling over here in Twitter. Tesla was working as well, holding up really high. They sold that off too. So they're selling off what was working and kind of buying what wasn't. So maybe some profit taking here is what you're seeing, and they're rolling that into some more value names, which in theory could be a bullish sign longer term. Tilray doing okay up here. We got Cron up 3%. Cron's made a little bit of gains throughout the day. Looks like it's at the high of the day. That's not bad. And the NASDAQ has dropped off a little bit. 63.83. 63.75 was our previous high for the day. And before we rolled over, so we made a higher high, which is good. MMNFF is an MJ name. So looks like it's going to be a choppy day today. We'll see if it's going to turn into a rally in one direction or another. I'm going to go, though. Got to get ready for crypto and got a lot to do in crypto. So I'm going to go do that. I'll see you guys in there. And stay safe in the markets here. Looks like we're Looks like we're floating higher. What could be a rising wedge type of a pattern. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. That move to the upside didn't have a tremendous amount of volume on it, so don't know if I'm super enthused about that or not. Probably not. But we did poke over 64 for a minute, and then it looks like we kind of gave it up. But volume also declining right now on the sell-off. And it's like 4 minutes left in this right there. So we'll see how that goes. So there was our Fed announcement. We hit it live yesterday for the most part. And reaction this morning is fairly muted so far. If we get a break to the downside on elevate, look for elevated volume to give you the signal for the next move in a direction. Really, but nothing super bullish this morning. Nothing super bullish this morning. Like I said, elevated volumes on the open could lead to something, but we just don't know what that's going to be yet. We didn't really get the bounce over 64 like we were hoping. Not yet. Maybe it'll happen, but it may not. It may not. 63 would be, I think you're just completely get out of town point. Yeah, market is waiting. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I got to go put a newsletter together and look through about 150 different coins. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day. Stay safe.